Welcome to the Chamber's We Are Business podcast. I'm your host, Susan Spears. Our guest today is Kevin Dillard, who is the president and founder of LifeCare Medical Transports, a member of the Chamber Board of Directors, and our most recent Prince B. Woodard Leadership Award winner at the Gala. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Susan. It's an honor to be here, and I want to give a shout out to you for the great job you do with all these podcasts. You must be up to over 100 or more by now.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Wow. Well,
You know, and Kevin, we started that during COVID. It was on that wish list of things that the Chamber wanted to get done, and we were always so busy running around in the community. So when things slowed down on that activity side in 2020, we said, now's the time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm always totally amazed when I look back at the number of people that you've interviewed, and to think that not only are people in our region hearing these podcasts, but people throughout the entire world are hearing it. So it's pretty cool that people all around the world get to see all the great talent and leaders that we have within our region.
I agree with you. There's so much happening here, and we're kind of a unknown area in some ways. And I think as it unfolds to others in the world, as they get to know about all the great treasures here, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we're overshadowed by DC to our north and Richmond to our south, but these podcasts help bring us out.
I love it. Well, and I think I've had you on a couple of times already
Yes,
over on the leader to leader side, which is episodes I do around just specific topics around leadership. Certainly, this is a leadership award. We're doing a series right here at the Chamber from the recent award winners from the Gala.
Okay.
And wasn't that fun, the Gala? You looked good in a cowboy hat, my friend.
Well, I was going to say the Gala was a blast, and I always try to dress up to whatever the theme is. So you definitely take me out of my comfort zone in the way I dress, but it was fun.
Yes, over here behind you, and I know they can't see it, but there's a picture there from the year we did the royalty theme.
Exactly.
And I mean, Kevin, you did it up. You had the whole thing, the crown. I love the purple robe. It's just totally embracing it. It's so fun to work with you.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
So we're going to talk about the award here in a minute. I want to go back a minute for anybody that's listening and tell them a little bit about what this award is.
Okay.
You know, and why it matters. So first of all, the Prince B. Woodard Award, the Leadership Award, is named after the former president of Mary Washington College, which today is the University of Mary Washington, whose vision, integrity, and dedication to serving others made him a pillar of our community. Each year, the Chamber recalls his legacy by presenting this award to a person who has provided our community with extraordinary service over time through dedication, leadership, ethics, and example. I looked up some information about Prince Woodard. I personally didn't know him. He predates me by a few years, but he was the president of Mary Washington from 1974 through 1982. First of all, during that 8-year tenure, he did a lot, but immediately I have visions of 1974 to 82. What a different time in our country, right?
Yes, it was.
I mean, just amazing. So he really saw the college through some pretty big changes that were amazing. Among them was starting the Center for Historic Preservation and bringing in a value system into the school. All of this you can find on the university's website. He was very active in Virginia and in our community and served on the Chamber Board and passed away while he was the president, unfortunately. Looks like he took a leave of absence, had underwent open heart surgery and ultimately passed, and really was relatively young at that point because he was 53 when he became president, so 8 years later. So I'm sure for the folks that worked in community with him at that time, he must have just been an extraordinary leader. And I look at you today and go, there's another extraordinary leader, and this is why you received this award.
Well, you're very kind with those comments.
Well, I knew you'd say that, but your story is so amazing. So let's walk through a little of that, and then we're going to touch on some of the big highlights, which is what we touched on at the Gala, and why you would be somebody recognized this way. Because as we said, somebody with a long time of giving back to the community and with high ethics and just an extraordinary commitment and dedication to the community. So your great business story with starting LifeCare Medical Transports, just you and your partner, kind of an idea, one ambulance, and then how it grew. So let's hear a little bit about that first, and then we'll also get into some of the big pieces where, under your leadership with LifeCare, you took it to places they didn't have to go.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about that a little bit. So I started off serving the community early on. So I remember in high school getting an interest in becoming an EMT, and through my work with the Boy Scouts at the time, I received a first aid merit badge, and that really got me interested. And I reached out to the local rescue squad and joined. They had a junior rescue squad at the time. And I just rose through the ranks over the years and just got very deep roots with emergency medical services. And then I had the pleasure at some point after being at the Fredericksburg Rescue Squad for a few years to meet Dan Wildman, who became my business partner at LifeCare.
Yeah.
And we were partners on a duty shift, and we were always talking about things that we could do to hopefully make the community a little bit better. And one day we came up with the idea of starting our own ambulance company. And we put a lot of work into that business plan. You know, we wrote a 5-year plan, and we wanted to one day have 5 ambulances in this area. And as you know, that plan didn't work out, but it didn't work out to the good because we ended up with over 100 ambulances throughout Virginia. So that was very exciting to find out that not only did we identify a need here in the Fredericksburg area, but we identified later that there was a bigger need throughout the Commonwealth. And we just went all over the state.
Yeah, I always feel so happy when I see one of your ambulances go by, especially because you guys branded many of them with telling different stories. You want from some of the folks at LifeCare or different projects you've supported. Tell us a little bit more about that and why you made those ambulance brandings
Sure.
special.
So we have different themed ambulances, and I'm a big believer in recognizing people while they're here to see the recognition. So we have, for example, a breast cancer awareness, and one of our employees had been going through some challenging times and had breast cancer. So in honor of her, we had ordered a new ambulance. Instead of putting the normal LifeCare logo and colors on it, we put it pink and put the breast cancer awareness logo on there, and then put a plaque in the back of it in honor of her. So I just see so many times where we do things in memory of somebody, and I think, wow, wouldn't it have been nice had that person seen the honor that's being bestowed? So that's why we do it that way. And we've done Alzheimer's awareness. We did a military-themed one because we were first on the scene on 9/11 at the Pentagon. So in honor of all the military people, we did a military-themed one. And I think total we have about 12 different themed ambulances in the fleet.
That is so cool. I don't think I've seen that military one. It's great to hear about it. Yeah. And that's a great place to launch into some of these special things that you and LifeCare have done through the years. So when you say first on the scene, again, for our listeners, anyone that's not local, we'll tell you how close we are to the Pentagon. Close. With no traffic, it's 40 minutes up the road. I think that's fair.
That's about right.
Yep. So it's just part of Virginia and right up in Northern Virginia, which we're right on the tip of. I'm sure it took longer than that possibly that day because it was such chaos. But here you are, a local medical transport ambulance company, but you saw we're not sure what's happening because it's the day of.
That's right.
It's the day of, and it was just utter chaos, and especially for everyone in our country and across the world, but us that live right beside, just like our friends in New York City. When you live right by it, it's got a different feeling.
It does.
And instead of continuing to watch it and just do your daily business here in the Fredericksburg region, you guys did what?
Well, on that day, and most of us can remember where we were and what we were doing that day, but we had an EMT and a paramedic that had picked up a pediatric patient from the area and had transported that patient up to Washington, D.C. to a hospital. And after they had delivered that patient, they were on the way back to Fredericksburg, and they actually witnessed the jet clip the poles and hit the Pentagon. So that's how we ended up being first on the scene, because they witnessed it. And
I bet they thought, I'm imagining what I'm seeing. Not to interrupt,
No,
but I mean,
no.
can you imagine? I mean, just actually witnessing. Okay, carry on with your story.
So, like you said, it's a different impact
Yeah.
on us because we're so close to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time that we're up there helping for the next few days, the impact to us is tremendous because many people had family that worked at the Pentagon,
Of course.
neighbors,
Yes.
friends. So that made it really tough. But that ambulance crew called in and told our dispatcher what they had witnessed, and our dispatcher called me to let me know what had happened. And I'd already been watching on TV what had happened up in New York City. So then when they called about the
Oh, my
Pentagon,
goodness.
I'm thinking this is really big now. So normally when you have a big event, you don't self-dispatch ambulances. But in this situation, it's unique and different, and we did. So I contacted our dispatcher and said, take every ambulance we have in the state that does not have a patient on board and start heading towards the Pentagon. And that's what we did. So later, maybe an hour or two later, we used LifeCare as a staging area for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So ambulances from all over Virginia came to the Fredericksburg region and staged here. So Virginia Beach and Southwest Virginia and just all over the Commonwealth. They were lined up and down the road, and then as they needed more help up at the Pentagon, the Arlington dispatcher would call us and say, send me 10 more ambulances or send me 15 more ambulances, and they all would leave from our office in Stafford and go up there.
So many stories that people just don't know about.
That's right.
That are always involved behind the scenes of these big things that make the news.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of us had family and friends that worked there. So when our first crews arrived, after they'd been up there a good 12 hours, just steady working, we sent up some additional people so they could rotate out. And they refused to rotate out because we still had people that we were looking for. And, they didn't know at the time if their family or their friends were still in there. So that's the level of commitment that our people had.
Yeah, that was a huge recovery effort.
It was.
Overshadowed somewhat because New York was so much bigger in numbers, but every bit the same feeling. And I remember riding up there as just a little civilian person that wasn't involved with helping, but felt like it was my duty to go see it because I'm so close. And that I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
Seeing the building blacked out like that, and then all the spectacle all around it of just everybody trying to pay respects at the same time as the recovery going on. Absolutely. And you're right there in the middle of it. Did you ever pause and reflect after that and think, good job? Or do you have time to reflect or say, next time, what will we do? Are we prepared? Can we do it better? Because there are a bunch of next times that we'll talk about too.
Yeah, sure. So obviously during the event, you don't think about anything because you're so focused on
the action.
The action that's going on. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. But a period of time later, I did reflect on the events of the day, and all I can say is my heart was filled with joy and happiness and appreciation for the work that our people did. I mean, I could not have asked for anything better. Everybody just stepped up to the plate. They did what they needed to do and went far and beyond expectations to make sure that we took care of the people that had been impacted by that situation.
And a question I've never asked you before, but it's just occurring to me. You're in private business. Business exists. It has a great need. Your need is helping others. At some point, you make some money in that. There is a profit. Not thinking about that with this, right? This is all giving.
That's exactly right. Yeah, sometimes you just got to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that was the right thing to do. And I've always been a big believer in if you run your business and always do the right thing, then everything else will come naturally. And obviously that's a type of event we went to that we didn't get paid for, but we sent significant resources up there.
Yes.
And lots of payroll involved. But
so hoping that on the business, that we are a business chamber, I hadn't really given that the thought before, but you had to have had the ability to do it. So you were running the business well.
Yes. We had great people.
That is incredible. All right, so on my list here on other large, well-known activities where your folks stepped in, you also have a role relative to Hurricane Katrina. And so we're going in the opposite direction, but we're still on the East Coast.
That's right.
So tell us about that.
Well, that's actually another example of where we responded and we were not set up to get paid. It was just the right thing to do. So as most of us watched this hurricane approaching the United States, I reached out to the federal government and told them if they needed assistance, we were willing to go down there. And at the time, FEMA was not an organized group like we have today. They're very organized and they do a wonderful job. But back then, it was not very organized. And we were told we weren't needed. And the last thing the gentleman said to me on the phone when I talked to him, if we need you, we'll give you 3 days notice. And we were coming into a holiday weekend. So I remember going into the office because our people were going home to be with their families, and we had a skeleton crew on, and I was sitting at my desk and had only been at my desk maybe 5 minutes when the phone rang, and that was that gentleman calling me back, and he said, "We need you." And I said, "Is this a 3-day notice?" And he says, "No, you don't understand." Immediately.
Yeah.
So we had to do a phone tree and call all of our employees and tell them to report back to work within the hour. And people stopped their cookouts and their time with their families and, grabbed some extra clothes and came to the office. And then we had several vehicles, a convoy of vehicles, I'd say, that left the office, lights and siren, to start heading towards New Orleans. And once again, I'm always so proud of our community because our community always steps up and is so supportive about everything. But the local police departments escorted us out of the area.
Oh,
and we stopped by Mary Washington Hospital and went to the emergency department, and they just filled up the back of the ambulances with extra IV supplies and medical supplies. And just everybody came together. And then as we were going down Route 3, I just remember some of the people from the volunteer fire department, as we were going through Spotsylvania County, standing on the side of the road and just kind of saluting as we went by. And it just, once again, just made my heart just so full thinking about the great community that we live in and how everybody is so supportive. And I was also extremely proud of our employees because on such short notice, they stopped doing what they were doing with their families, came back to work, and within a matter of a little over an hour, they were heading to New Orleans. And when we left here, we didn't know whether we'd be down there 2 days or 4 days, and over 30 days later, we came home. So can you imagine when you go on vacation, how much time you spend packing your bag for a week's vacation?
Okay, I just am a mess. I couldn't do it.
So we had just a few moments to grab some things and leave, and then a month later, we came home.
So there's a lot more. 30 days. And how long is the drive down there? How long did that caravan go, do you think, approximately?
I'm going to maybe 18 hours, or it was a long time. I've never had a response that long in my life. And but the people, not only in our community, but people in general in the United States are just really good people, because as we got closer and closer, the gas stations were overwhelmed because people were trying to leave, and there were long lines of people trying to fill up with fuel. And then when we pulled up, people let us go all the way to the front of the line. And I remember...
Yeah, you were going in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So as we were going in, there were traffic jams going out, and there was nobody going our way.
Wow.
We were the only ones pretty much going that way. And I remember we were in one very rural area in Louisiana, and we stopped at this gas station, and they moved us. The local police moved us to the front of the line, and we filled up all these ambulances. And when I took the credit card to pay, the older gentleman that owned the gas station would not allow us to pay because he knew what we were coming to do. And that just shows you the caring people that we have throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to stay in this one for another minute or two. What did you see? When you got there? Walk us through that feeling and that situation.
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, because we are trained very specifically how we handle people, and we treat people with dignity and respect in their time of need. And this was a situation where we had strict orders to go to a specific area in New Orleans, and we were told as we were going down there that you're going to see a lot of devastation and you're going to see a lot of people need a help, and you can't stop. And that was so hard for us because as we were going down there, we did see huge amounts of devastation, and we saw people that were begging for help.
Waving at you.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's something we're not used to do, is to keep going like that. We're used to you stop and you help. But we had a mission, and we were needed in a certain area of the state. And so we had to drive by those people, and that was really, really tough. You know, I can still picture that as we were going down the road, because there were so many more people that needed help and nowhere near enough of us to give that help.
Well, I'm so grateful that, again, you and your team went in there and made a difference. Another story that's just part of the rescue and recovery and,
Right.
and all of that
Exactly.
in our country. We're going to skip ahead a few years to one that's more recent. Whew, and wow. The way we characterized it at the gala, in the remarks presenting you with the award, was the dark early days of COVID-19 in New York City. I mean, terrifying moment in our history. So much unidentified, so much quick illness and death and exposure. And yet, once again, where did LifeCare go? So let's talk about that too. You know, what was happening, I don't remember the month, if it was March or April, but it was really early, right?
Yeah, it was
In 2020.
very early on. So everybody was being told to stay at home.
Yes.
And wear a mask. And of course, we couldn't stay at home. You know, all of our employees were having to still go to work because of the type of business that we are in. And our people showed up, even though people had a lot of fear about what COVID was and how it was going to affect us. And we were supposed to keep a distance from everybody.
6 feet.
Yes. And then what were our people doing? We were 6 inches away because we're in the back of an ambulance with somebody who's got COVID symptoms.
Oh, my gosh.
Our people are just stepping up and doing what they need to do. And then as we watch TV, we see the governor and the mayor of New York begging for help. They don't have enough ventilators.
Yes.
They don't have their EMS system is overwhelmed. Their workers need assistance.
Were they calling areas like, if I recall, around the country, there were different, especially in large urban areas like that, hotspots?
Yeah.
COVID
that's
hotspots?
That's exactly
and
what
that's
they called
right where you headed.
Yeah. So I would say that was the epicenter in New York City, and they were screaming for help. So
Oh, my goodness.
we loaded up our ambulances with extra ventilators, and we sent a crew of 30 people up there on short notice again. They left their families, and keep in mind when we send that large number of employees out, we still have to handle all the calls that we have locally. So then, even though those people are leaving their families, the people that stayed back have to leave their families and work all those extra shifts to fill in. And I'm so proud of the group of people that we sent up there because they got divided into two groups. One group handled inter-facility transports. They would go to the hospitals that were overwhelmed, pick up that patient that's on a ventilator, and then take them several hours away to another hospital that could handle them. And then the other half of our people relieved the New York City 911 service so that those people could get a break and go home to be with their families. And we were actually running 911 calls in the city of New York. And one side note, I actually received a call from a patient that one of our crews had transported from New York. And a lot of times you get a call, somebody's got a complaint. And this gentleman had called me, and he said, I just want to commend your crews. They're so polite and so courteous. And that's just what we do for Virginia, you know.
Right.
But A very proud moment of mine is when our crews returned. And once again, the community stepped up. The Stafford Sheriff's Department met them as they came off Interstate 95 at 17 and escorted them into the LifeCare building on International Parkway. And we had family and friends there to cheer the people in as they drove up. But every one of our people came back healthy. Nobody got sick. Nobody got hurt. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that they worked with up there, side by side from other companies, some of them got sick and some of them died.
Oh, my goodness.
But I credit our people to following the stringent rules we have in place and wearing the mask the entire time. And every time they transport a patient, making sure the ambulance was disinfected and cleaned. And some of the other crews, unfortunately, up there were a little bit more relaxed and didn't follow all of those stringent requirements. But just so proud that I can say every single person that went up there came back healthy and
really
no
incredible.
side effects.
Well, yeah. So, all right. I'm just pausing for a moment, reflecting on that. And just that one. Okay. So when we think of the other tragedies that happened in the United States, everyone felt 9/11, but everyone wasn't touched by 9/11. And same with Katrina. They were in regions. And then when COVID came, it touched everybody. And so a lot of us were in fear and so forth. And there was so much unknown. So the amount of heart that you've had for that desire to make a difference and help, no matter how scary, it's just incredible. And I it's just incredible. I can't say enough. And so that'll make me come full circle to today, the last couple of years. Now I fuss at you sometimes for this because I worry about you. He's kind of like family, y'all. But you keep going over to the Ukraine and bringing ambulances right to the front lines to folks. And I mean, you don't just send folks out. You yourself have gone now. I've lost track. It's 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah, so I'll be leaving Tuesday of next week for my 5th trip back over there.
Your 5th trip. So I had the 4th right. Okay. So let's just go back a little and share how you got started on that and why you do that too, and walk us into it too. So because the stories of particularly that first trip when you came back and talked about being right there and really such harm's way and what you saw there from the folks in Ukraine.
Sure. Well, when the war first started, a gentleman in Chicago by the name of Chris Manson was watching TV with his young daughter, and she was asking him what they could do to help out. And he came up with the idea that he was going to get one ambulance over there, which is how I got involved. So a person that served on the volunteer fire department with me was the brother of Chris Manson, and he connected the two of us. And Chris told me about he was trying to get an ambulance over there, but he didn't have any supplies for the ambulance. So we got supplies together from LifeCare, shipped them to Chicago. He put it on the ambulance, and that ambulance was sent to Ukraine. It went over on a jet, and I thought that would be the end of it. And once that ambulance got over there, we found out the need was so much greater, and they needed so much more assistance, more medical supplies, more vehicles. So Chris led the effort to start asking for donations of ambulances, and we donated 3 ambulances from LifeCare, and we made arrangements to get those ambulances up. People always ask, well, how do you get ambulances into Ukraine? So we took the ambulances up to Baltimore, and then they're put on a container ship, and it takes a couple weeks to go across the Atlantic Ocean to Hamburg, Germany, and then the Germans put the vehicles on a tractor trailer, and they truck them into Poland, and then a group of people go over and take them from Poland and drive across the border into Ukraine. So once again, I thought my service ended with the donation of the 3 ambulances, but I received a call from Chris, and he said, why don't you go with us to help us deliver these ambulances? And I had never even considered doing that. And I immediately said yes, because in my mind, over in that part of Europe, Eastern Europe, I had always envisioned a lot of corruption, and I was wondering if we're donating all this equipment and vehicles, is it truly going over there and being used as we intend it to be used? So that was the main reason I went on that first trip, because I just wanted to see if
Now keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I wanted to see if it was being used as intended. So when I got over there, wow, yes, it was getting used as intended, and yes, the people were very appreciative and still are very appreciative, and the need is just so great. But when we drove across that border between Poland and Ukraine, I tell the story of it's wintertime, it's nighttime, it's snowing, and as we cross the border, I'm in the first vehicle, and there's about 12 other ambulances behind me in the convoy, and as I look in the mirror, I see their headlights on, and I see the street lights on in Poland, and then I look forward as I'm driving, and I see the Ukrainian sign, and it's pitch black, and it's snowing, and that's because the infrastructure had been knocked out by the Russians, and the people over there were doing the best they could do to survive. They didn't have electricity, and they were, burning fires to stay warm, and it was just very humbling to see what the people continue to go through over there. And as we traveled throughout the country, we go to a different city every day, and we would drop off the vehicles, and then the next day we would go to another city, working our way all the way up to the front line. So the last vehicles that we drop off, we meet with the military, and we turn the vehicles over to the military to use. And before we can even leave, those vehicles are responding out, getting soldiers. That's how bad the need was over there. And the bad thing is, never did I think I would go back a second time, but I went back the second time, and as an example, the 3 ambulances that we had donated, one of the ambulances had been hit by the Russians, and 4 Ukrainian paramedics lost their life over there.
Oh, gosh.
And we unfortunately see that the Russians, they bombed the ambulances and the fire trucks and the hospitals and the daycare centers, and it's just horrific destruction over there. And seeing it firsthand just makes me so proud and so appreciative of what we have back here in America. I tell people when I come back and I'm standing in the line at the grocery store and somebody's complaining the line's not moving quick enough or whatever.
This is the wrong price.
Yeah. And I think to myself, wow, you have nothing to complain about. Nothing. So it just gives me a whole different outlook on life after going over there and seeing what they're going through.
Wow. Well, so many people are appreciative of your willingness to go in places others won't, and to help in those ways, because at the same time in doing that, the business is still running. The daily transports are still happening. So every day in your working world over these past, about 40 years, haven't been so dramatic as some of these pieces that we're talking about. And by the way, for listeners or viewers, there are other major stories too, but we'll just stick to those for today. Additionally, why Kevin, you're hearing these stories of just great things that he and his company have done around the United States and beyond. Also, why Kevin was recognized. He co-founded the National EMS Memorial, honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice. So that's just a line in his bio. But let's say it again. He co-founded a National EMS Memorial. So it didn't exist, I suppose, before then. So tell us about why you thought that was important to do.
Sure. So being in public safety, I saw that the police had a memorial that recognized police officers that died in the line of duty, and I also saw that the fire service had a national service in place to recognize firefighters that died in the line of duty, but there was nothing in place to recognize EMS providers. So about 30 years ago, I asked a question at a statewide meeting to the person that was in charge why that was the case. And he paused in the meeting in front of everybody, and after about 30 seconds, he said, "I don't know the answer to that question, but do something about it." And then I'm like, wow. And after I thought about it for a second, I'm like, okay. And I started working with the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads and a small group of people, and we formed the National EMS Memorial Service. And today, the service honors providers that die in the line of duty nationwide. And unfortunately, we average about 30 providers a year that are recognized. Other than during 9/11 or COVID, there was much higher numbers.
Yes.
But on an average year, that's what we'll recognize. And it's making a difference in the families of the loved ones, that people that lost loved ones, because the families are very appreciative that their EMT or paramedic, their son, their daughter, their husband, their wife is being recognized and honored like that. So we hold the service in Northern Virginia in the Arlington area every year. So this year's service will be in July. So it's open to the public. So encourage people to go and see how this thought that was a seed grew into a national event that'll go on forever.
Yeah, that's just great. The list is lengthy of other things that you've been involved with here in the region and across Virginia. It's just always ends up in a leadership role too. And you're such a humble leader, quiet leader, but yet you get pushed right to the front every time. It's that service orientation. I think you're a servant leader.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I look at service is very important to me, and sometimes when the need is out there, it's not convenient, and sometimes it's even dangerous. But it's
you think?
But it's the right thing to do when
Yeah.
people have a need. I like to be there, and that's what impresses me most about humanity is the people that do come together and help out people in time of need. And I'm just glad I can help in some small way to contribute to that.
I think you must come by it. It's in your genes, because I know your parents who are in their 90s, and they've been volunteering at the hospital and probably ways I don't know. They were big time volunteers at LifeCare for many years too.
Right.
They're very active. So we've got a lot of years still with you, but I do think if there's anything you'd like to add on that example of your parents and how it's influenced you.
Yeah, well, my parents definitely have influenced me to service to the community and the importance of helping others. And I'm very proud of the fact that even though they're in their 90s, they're volunteering weekly at Mary Washington Hospital. And you do not schedule anything on the day they're supposed to volunteer, because that's their priority.
Yeah.
And they're very proud of the fact that they volunteer, and they feel good every day when they come home knowing that they've helped others. And I chuckle sometimes, because sometimes they'll be pushing somebody out in a wheelchair, and the people will find out how old
Yes.
our parents are, and they're like, we should probably be pushing you. You're not pushing us. But they take pride in that they stay active and they're healthy, and we're just very blessed that they're able to continue doing that.
It's just great. So, Kevin, we'll just take a second and go back to the beginning before we wind up on the Prince B. Woodard Award. So it's named after Prince Woodard, whose vision, integrity, and dedication to serving others made him a pillar of our community. And we give this award out to someone for extraordinary service over time through dedication, leadership, ethics, and example. It's you.
Well, thank you. I honestly never, ever thought I would receive that award, and to get that award at this year's gala, it was such an honor. Number one, to get an award named after Prince Woodard, such a visionary leader. And then number two, when I sit back and reflect and look at each year who has received this award, all tremendous, great leaders in our community, all people that I look up to and admire. And to think that I'm included in that group now is just humbling.
Yeah. Well, you inspire us all. I remember your first board meeting as chair of the chamber board, and you went to Ukraine. So we just laughed, there at the board. We said, well, I guess he came up with a good excuse to miss his meeting. He's over here saving the world, but that's who you are. Kevin, for anybody that doesn't know him, and plenty of listeners or viewers don't know him, so he's always early. I mean, if he had to be here at 9 and it was 8:59, I'd be concerned and think, okay, there might be a little fender bender or something,
right,
because he's always, 10, 15 minutes early. And you just have this great work ethic and life ethics that are unparalleled. So it's a joy to know you.
Well, thank you. That's something we've tried to instill in all our employees at LifeCare. We always tell them, if you're on time, you're late, and if you're early, you're on time. So I try to stick with that. Yeah, Leadership Fredericksburg, if you've listened to the end, I know a few of you are wincing because we talk about this in the program and so forth. So I think it's great. Well, as we go ahead and close this out, anything else you'd like to share about your thoughts with, whether it's specifically to the Prince B. Woodard Leadership Award or anything else as you look back on your career and all you do for our community? Well, again, I'm very proud to have received that award and very humbled, and I'm proud of our community, and that's where all this started, is right here in the community, and now it's worldwide what I'm doing. But in addition to service, I do thoroughly enjoy helping others achieve their goals and objectives. So grooming new leaders. Yes. When somebody has a desire to get promoted at work or go off and get a college degree or maybe go into a different line of work, I like to always support that and encourage people to do that. And it's just another thing that warms my heart is to help people that are in the generations behind us to succeed. And by us giving people opportunities and support and encouragement, the future looks good. Well, thank you so much for everything, Kevin, and I appreciate those closing comments and thinking about the future. So I know you to be innovative and also to always be looking around like, how can I make that better? That's true. I've seen you do it. I'm like, oh, he's always thinking and preparing. So congratulations again on being this year's Prince B. Woodard Leadership Award honoree from the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. We are proud to have you among our members and leaders. And Kevin Dillard is a legend here in the Fredericksburg, Virginia region and well beyond. So thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. All righty.